If you look at the final score, it's 114-83. The Warriors won the game against the Pacers at home by 31 points, which would make you think that it was an easy win, easy game all around. No problems for the Warriors, and it was a stress-free game. Not so. If you watched the game, you know exactly what happened. The Pacers stayed connected against the Warriors through the first half, despite only scoring 41 points at the half. The Pacers were decimated by injuries once again. This time around, even Pascal Siakam was missing, along with Aaron Naismith, and even apparent Warriors killer Quentin Jackson didn't play in this game. The Warriors should have been able to create massive separation by halftime, but they were also only able to score 48 points at the half. Allowed a depleted Pacers team with no offense whatsoever to hang around. The third quarter comes, and the Pacers are outplaying the Warriors. The Warriors had a 7-point lead at halftime, and it dwindled down to a 1-point lead by the third quarter. What changed? What changed so much that the Warriors were able to turn around and outscore the Pacers by 30 points for the rest of the game from that point in that third quarter when the Pacers brought it down to a 1-point deficit? What is with the discrepancy of the plus minus of the starting lineup? And how good is Will Richard actually? We'll go over all those things and more in this breakdown, and if that sounds good to you, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and that like button so that this video gets out to all the Warriors fans out there. Let's get straight to it. Obviously, in the previous game, Steve Kerr elected to start a small lineup, a stupid, senseless small lineup that had no shot against the Nuggets from the jump. Kerr elected to go back to a bigger lineup: Potts, Butler, Kuminga, Draymond, and Post. And that's exactly what I said in the previous video. You have to keep Quinton Post in the starting lineup for floor balance, for more size, for better defense, and then take your pick between Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga in that starting lineup at that small forward spot. And Kerr decided to stick with Kuminga at the small forward spot. Fine. The Warriors were not necessarily crisp offensively, but they still got out to a 15-6 lead, and this is persistently what happens with this team when Quinton Post is in the starting lineup. They win those minutes, and the Warriors are simply a better basketball team. Did you guys know that this season Quinton Post is number 2 in plus minus for this team? When Steph Curry returns, Steve Kerr should never remove Quinton Post out of the starting lineup to put 6'4" Pods next to Steph Curry to play a small lineup. And by the way, I said the Warriors got out to a 15-6 start against this Pacers team, and the only reason it wasn't like 17-4 is because of another terrible entry pass by Draymond that turned into a turnover, and that was the start of giving the Pacers a little bit of life. Draymond had 3 assists and 4 turnovers in this game. I have been harping on this for a minute now. Draymond Green, especially without Steph Curry in the lineup, is a vastly overrated passer. His passes are telegraphed, is very predictable, and is not very good. I don't think he should have the ball as much as he has in the offense anymore. I think the offense needs to go through other players besides Draymond Green. Draymond Green should still be involved in the passing, but he should not be one of the primary decision makers for this team. The offense should clearly and obviously run through more of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Imagine having Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler on the same team, and you're running your offense through Draymond Green. How utterly stupid is that? That is like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and Dennis Rodman has the ball a majority of the time. Does that not sound comically stupid to you? Well, that's precisely what Steve Kerr has been doing with the Warriors forever, and it is utterly stupid. If he's tired of the turnovers, if he wants the ball to be taken care of better, if he wants the offense to look more sharp and crisp, run more plays through Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. It is really that simple. And when you look at the Warriors' offense in that first half, and you see how they shot 5 of 21 from the 3-point line, and their offense was utter garbage, utterly useless. Well, that's the kind of thing that can happen when you run a predictable offense and you prioritize the system over the players and the talents that are on the team. Until later in that third quarter, when Jimmy Butler, Al Horford, Will Richard, these guys started to take over a little bit, started imposing their will into the game, the Warriors were practically unwatchable. Their offense is absolutely awful. They get nothing inside the paint area because of Steve Kerr's nonsensical lineups, which, of course, happened multiple times in this game. Whatever good that was done in that first quarter was undone by the lineups that continued to feature Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is the first man off the bench. Buddy Hield is the 6th man of this team. Buddy Hield can do no wrong, and Buddy Hield will get all the minutes no matter how awful he is. Like I said, Quinton Post once again had a really good first half, but he only played 11 minutes, while Buddy Hield played 12 minutes in that first half, and he was a -8 in that time. Buddy Hield is being played at the wrong spot, at the small forward spot, often being asked to play POA. He's not a good on-ball defender. He's not a good off-ball defender. He can never recover on any shooter. So this idea that Steve Kerr is going to run a 3-guard lineup with Buddy Hield as his small forward is really disrespectful to the concept and idea of small ball. And I'm just going to keep saying this until it eventually happens. And when this happens, I promise you, all of you will see the Warriors will look that much better. Is that Guy Santos should be taking Buddy Hield's minutes. You want Will Richard to play at the shooting guard spot or maybe even point guard spot. I think I would rather at this point have Will Richard play the backup point guard role over Pat Spencer. Well, that's when Steph Curry's out of the game. You know, when it comes to Will Richard, I was more interested in his defensive ability, his POA ability, his general know-hows and such, but I didn't think that he would be this solid on the offensive end of the floor. Actually, he showed more potential as an offensive talent for this team than defense. Will Richard is a 4-year college player. He played a vital role for a championship team, and it just looks like he knows how to play on both ends of the floor, has great motor, has a ton of energy, does a pretty good job of navigating through screens, is really good out in the open in transition, great cutter, generally super efficient, never hesitates, is always confident regardless of what shot he's choosing to take, and he even made this small lineup look passable in this game. In just 19 minutes of play, Will Richard scored 15 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. Richard's production offensively actually has been off the charts. He's 61% from the field, 44% from the 3-point line, and 79% from the free throw line, which is about to go up after tonight after he shot 7 of 8 from the free throw line. Obviously an unsustainable pace, but that is still preposterous, and in terms of potential overall impact for this team, he has more potential than these following names: Pat Spencer, Pods, Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, and maybe Moses Moody. I think Moody has the capacity for more, but Richard is knocking on the door there. And honestly, that says a lot about Will Richard, but that also says a lot about the pieces that are on this team. This situation with Jonathan Kuminga's fit with this team is turning into a real issue here. The Warriors couldn't put away Pacers' C team. As a matter of fact, they were losing momentum in that third quarter. Jonathan Kuminga was absolutely horrid. 1 of 9 from the field, 0 for 5 from the 3-point line, 3 of 6 from the free throw line. His percentages are starting to regress. The Warriors have trouble beating the worst teams in the league when Kuminga is in rotation, even when Steph Curry is available. And everybody knows I always put the blame first and foremost on Steve Kerr. But there are certain players who also just don't do a good enough of a job in a lot of different ways. Sure, being put in the wrong spots by Steve Kerr, but also a part of it is that these guys don't have the flexibility to be playing in those positions that Steve Kerr keeps putting them in, like Buddy Hield at the small forward spot, for example, or Jonathan Kuminga at the power forward spot, for example. I mean, Kuminga is 225, 230, 6'7", super athletic, very strong guy. Theoretically, he should be able to play power forward better than he does, but he doesn't. And then you try him at POA, and he's not good enough there because he allows line drives to the rim, he allows angles that makes it easier for blow-bys, and he gets erased out of screens 90% of the time. He's horrible at recovering to shooters, not because he's not capable of getting out there, but because his reaction time is so late most of the time. So as I've always said, Kuminga's presence always limits their potential on the defensive end of the floor, and then simultaneously, he has nights like this on offense, again, with no Steph Curry against a crappy team, and he's a no-show on the offensive end of the floor where he's supposed to be good. So the Warriors are losing this lead that they had at halftime, a 7-point lead, that dropped down to a 1-point lead by mid-third quarter, and then Kuminga takes a seat, and then Jimmy Butler starts to impose his will into the game. Will Richard comes in and is a massive positive for the team. Al Horford finally shows up on both ends of the floor, was 4 of 6 from the 3-point line. He was really good. Defensively, he was great. Yeah, 12 points for Al Horford on 4 of 6 on 3-point shots and 3 blocks at the rim. This is the kind of impact we were looking for from Al Horford, and too often times he's put in difficult positions where he's at the center spot on an island with a bunch of defenders out of position, and he's just been in a lot of these bad lineups. But tonight, he played a lot of minutes with Jimmy Butler, and that helped increase his production level a lot. But yes, to end the third quarter, the Warriors restored some order quarter, Jimmy Butler was taking matters into his own hands, and the Warriors were barely clinging on to a 6-point lead to end that third quarter. And at that moment, the game still could have been going either way. The Warriors could have missed a shot, and the Pacers could have brought it down to 4 points or even 3 points to end that third quarter. Instead, Moses Moody finally had his moment, created something out of nothing, got fouled on a 3-point shot, made it, and turned it into a 4-point play, giving the Warriors a 10-point cushion going into the fourth quarter. And that fourth quarter looked a little bit different. Al Horford was in there to start, Will Richard was in there to start, and this unit was really able to take care of business, and before you knew it, the Warriors had a 21-point lead. That is a plus 20 since Jonathan Kuminga took a seat. I mean, this team couldn't hit the side of a barn in the first 2.5 quarters of this game. And then a certain guy takes a seat and the Warriors proceed to be a plus 30 without him on the floor. I mean, this is quickly eroding into a very bad situation. The Warriors can't keep trying to force this situation. It is what it is. I assume Steph Curry will be back against Oklahoma City the next game. Put Moses Moody into the starting lineup. So that is Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody, Draymond, and Quinton Post. And that lineup is going to do amazingly. It doesn't matter if it's against OKC. I trust that that unit is going to play really well against just about every team in the league. But yes, the most impactful players in this game were Jimmy Butler, Quinton Post, Al Horford, Moses Moody, Will Richard, and Pods was also in the middle of that big run later in that second half. Right now, for me, the two most problematic players in Warriors rotation that is distorting what this team actually should be are Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think that these two guys belong on this team long term. If you're Kuminga, you're being paid to show up against a team like the Nuggets when Steph Curry is out. And you're being paid $23 million to show up against a depleted, worthless Pacers team at home, not shoot 1 of 9 from the field, and show no impact on either end of the floor. This is all just too much. He's eligible to be traded on January 15th, and it's time for the Warriors to move him before the deadline. Last season, when Guy Santos was given the role that Kuminga is playing for this team, the Warriors were comically good. Their win rate was comically good. I believe with Guy Santos playing a vital role for the Warriors last season, they were like 12-2. And both Will Richard and Guy Santos should be taking up all the minutes that Buddy Hield is getting for this team. With DeAnthony Melton due back at some point, Seth Curry due to sign with this team on the 15th of this month, some of the things with this roster don't necessarily make sense and corrections must be made. The politics of this team is severely limiting the potential of what they could look like this season, and that compromises everybody on the team. Every player that could have a completely different reputation. If they were used better and if the Warriors were winning, then they would all be elevated. But when you're 5-5 coming into this game, thank God they're 6-5 now, that makes everybody look average or worse, and it changes the narrative on everything. Oh, the older guys look too old. Oh, the younger guys are useless. Oh, most of the players on the Warriors are G League. These are the narratives that start flying at you when the Warriors don't win the games that they're supposed to be winning. And the reason they've been so inconsistent is because, number one, Steve Kerr's obsession with the smaller lineups, having the wrong rotational pieces in the lineup over pieces that need to actually be in the lineup. And a lot of that would be corrected and better guys would be in rotation if Buddy Hield and Kuminga and their massive contracts are not on this roster anymore. And for anybody who wants to call this analysis hate, yeah, I hate incompetent play, and I hate when players are not competing at the highest level, which is what the players on this team need to be doing, because the Warriors are trying to contend for a title. And if you're trying to contend for a title, of course the pieces that are in rotation have to play the game of basketball at the highest level. You have to be utter assets to be considered a title contender. And whatever players fit the least with what they're trying to do are the ones that I don't want on this team. At the end of the day, I look at all the pieces on the Warriors like pieces on a chessboard. I have no personal bias against any player for any personal reason. Why would I have a personal reason to like or dislike these players? It's all rooted in what they're doing or what they're not doing on the floor as these chess pieces. Basketball is a game of competition. If you want to win as much as possible, then you have to optimize everything about the team. In order to optimize, you have to be able to identify which pieces are good, which pieces are in the middle of the road, and which pieces are not good. And then you have to make objective decisions. Because of the human component, it's not necessarily easy to make some of these decisions. But that is why personnel of the NBA gets paid the big Bucks to make the hard decisions and do what's best for the team, for those people who are at the top making those decisions. That's what you're getting paid for. But if you do those tough things and you make the right decisions, the results will speak for itself. Are the Warriors winning at the highest level possible with the pieces that are on the roster? And this isn't necessarily just limited to Kuminga and Buddy Hield. Potts is also on thin ice with some of the things that he does. But for the time being, he's on a good rookie contract, and when the other pieces are used correctly, Potts is just fine. Like, he's not a plus 22 in this game for no reason. I actually think the level of hate that this kid has gotten a little out of control. I think he probably did some of that to himself with all the talking that he's been doing. That's why I've been saying, zip it. Anyway, it was really great to see some encouraging signs from Al Horford, who's been put in bad situations, and people have been starting to doubt the viability of Al Horford on this team. If he's put in with the right pieces, he can absolutely help this team. I still believe that he's a vital piece for this team. Even though Moody's efficiency has been a little bit off the last couple of games, he's still providing impactful two-way, and once again, he made a difference in this game. Will Richard is showing a lot. I wonder how they can continue to incorporate him into this situation, especially when Melton comes back. How are they going to incorporate Will Richard? It remains to be seen. But it's also pretty cool that they have a guy like this coming off their bench and is able to provide a change of pace for this team whenever Steve Kerr decides to insert him into the game, especially when he's in good lineups and not a bunch of 3-guard lineups, which also makes him look less than he should be. So there's definitely been a lot of positive developments. There's definitely been some negative developments. Outside of Steve Kerr's coaching, what's going on with some of the pieces that are on this team? At the end of the day, I still have a lot of hope for the Warriors because they have Steph Curry, because they have Jimmy Butler, because they have the viability of Quinton Post and his development now. They also have Al Horford. Melton is coming through. They can possibly do some trades to really bolster this situation even more. And by the time they get to the playoffs, I think they can make a lot of noise. But until then, I'm going to continue to break things down as needed. Like I said, the next game coming up is against Oklahoma City. Steph Curry can't come back soon enough. Hopefully we'll see a different kind of starting lineup going into that game. I would like to see Moses Moody in there next to Quinton Post in that starting lineup. And if they don't, pray to God that Jonathan Kuminga plays better. I do think that he plays better against OKC, especially if they decide to go smaller. That's one of those matchups where Kuminga can actually do really well. He is going through a very tough stretch right now, and obviously him playing better is going to help the Warriors. So regardless of how I feel about his long-term viability for this team, let's hope that he gets his confidence up against a smaller Thunder team. And whether it's as a starter or coming off the bench, let's hope that he can help the Warriors get back on the right track against the Thunder and get a big win against that team. We'll see what happens. That's all I got for now. Thank you so much for watching. Steph Curry is the GOAT.